discourse, the most complex word possible in my title, we need to understand that how we are told by theory that differences become oppositions through discourse. And difference is not opposition necessarily, but it can become opposition, and Foucault would say ideologically charged opposition. Ideologically charged opposition. And that requires power. So what am I saying? Differences can become opposition which are ideologically charged. But that needs some kind of a power to do that. Okay. By which I mean differences are very simple categories. There are differences which all around us, all the time we deal with. Differences on the basis of color, differences on the basis of sex, differences on the basis of our style of dressing, differences on the basis of classifications of various types. Indian, nation, and hundreds, language, etc. And you can add on, But these differences became opposites. They became ideological opponents. They get a charge when we do something to them. So for example, how color becomes race. Color is a very biological category, which is a difference, but it becomes race when it is charged, and then white becomes superior to black, and etc., and you know the story. Like sex becomes gender. Sex is a difference, but then it becomes gender, then it becomes charged ideologically immediately. Then all of a sudden we have views, what is what men do and what women do, what they ought to do and what they know how to do, etc., etc. And you can go on. But that's what I mean by differences becoming opposition, ideologically charged oppositions, and so on. And you can add on to that. Like we can always see whether it is class, whether it is caste. Things can work on that way. My point is, on which I will dwell upon, that how this process happens, that differences becomes opposition, ideologically charged. And following this group of theorists, I will argue that the power which is required to turn color into race, to turn sex into gender, to turn something into ready to fight or something, to turn human beings into national beings or something, any form of difference, is something that requires power, and one power form which I will talk today is institution. And my favorite institution are the juridical institutions. So that's my theoretical background. But I will try to tell you that how institutions of law, which are also scientific, like medicine, as scientific as medicine, not social science, institutions of law gives the power to create a kind of an opposition which is ideologically charged, to create a kind of an opposition, to put it more simply, which is problematic, which is something we don't want to have, and so on. That's what I will try to do. And my last comment on that, and that's what also is Edward Said's argument, and sometimes is misunderstood, so I thought I should make that clear. Edward Said is not saying that people have stereotypes. And in fact, nobody is saying that people have stereotypes about others, and that's a problem. Let's remove stereotypes and we are wonderful. I think this is the most naive reading of any of such scholars, absolutely for Edward Said. Because stereotypes are there, and sometimes they can be quite wonderful. I mean, and innocent. I mean, wonderful will be too much, but I'm saying, yeah, they exist. So men may have stereotypes about women, black may have stereotypes about whites, so much as white have stereotypes about black, and vice versa. There's a Greek scholar, Herodotus, who has written a beautiful book on stereotypes, and lovely stereotypes. You have fun reading him and so on. Said is not saying that stereotypes per se are the problem. What Edward Said's argument is that stereotypes can become institutionalized. They can become a discourse, and he's borrowing from Foucault there. Stereotypes can become a form of a truth effect, a form of a reality. And that happens when power operates. And this is a serious point, because if you read Edward Said's book Orientalism, then he constantly talks about that how 19th century has a power equation. 19th century has a power equation when Britain is in a certain kind of power which changes in the 20th century when America becomes the powerful and so on. So with Said, if you miss the power element, you miss the point. If you miss the fact of institutionalization, what gives power to stereotypes, you miss the point. Said is not simply saying that stereotypes are bad thing and that's it. Let's not be stereotypical, let's be pristine, pure, global citizens or something. That's not his argument, at least. That may be an argument of a multicultural liberal theorist, but that's not Edward Said, and so on. So let me move on that to talk about that how this kind of construction happens and what are the institutions of law which let that happen, and how something which we think is old-fashioned, archaic, that used to happen then but not now, is actually not so simple. But historically it becomes a part that the old, archaic, modern becomes a part of the contemporary moment. And that's what I will try to do, starting from the historic moment of rape law in India, and I'm following from some legal historians. I will come to very recent decisions which have come of late, Mahmoud Farooqi, and which were making a lot of talk these days, and including a decision which came, which actually rocked the Jindal campus, which was the Jindal rape case, and our students said, got around and said, we are against the judgment and so on. So let's try to understand, what are we against? What is the historicity? Are these some bad judgments? Are there some bad things which don't know what is victimology? Or is there something more serious which is going on? Okay, so let me begin with that. Let me keep good track of time. Okay, so this is my theoretical backdrop. Feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. Let's be the civilizing mission. So, if we go back to history of Indian criminal law, the Indian Penal Code, since we don't know before that much, there's new histories which are being written, but not much still. Macaulay's tenure, Lord Macaulay, Thomas Bobinga Macaulay, in India coincided with the age of reform, 1828 to 56, and of course Macaulay, who's known to be a man who created the Indian criminal law, substantive criminal law, which we call IPC as an acronym. They love acronyms, Indian Penal Code. Macaulay never saw the birth of Indian Penal Code, but nevertheless he was an architect in different ways. Liberal reformers viewed these practices as signs of cultural backwardness to be overcome by civilizing mission. So the point is that reform, in the eyes of the history of colonialism, was a form of mission to civilize. And of course, this is a very important time frame when reform is happening. Very soon, 1856 is the time when Macaulay dies, and 1857 is the time, very important for Indian history, because a mutiny happens in India, which will lead to a number of changes. And it's quite interesting that all the Indian codified laws are very close to this historical time frame, all of them. So Indian Penal Code 1860, Indian Evidence Act 1872, Partnership Act, Contract Act 1872, Criminal Procedure Code 1861, Civil Procedure Code 1862. This is the time frame when everything is codified. So we can't miss that. But of course, the point is that this reform, this codification, was also a process of civilizing. It has a process of civilization to it, and we know it very well from post-colonial theorists. Indian women frequently found themselves at the center of this reform agenda, and I thought to begin from here because we are talking about rape, and even today, after the 2013 massive amendments in India, rape is not a gender-neutral entity. It is something which is perpetrated by a male on a female. We can talk about it in the question and answer session. That what about a gender-neutral rape law, and why we not decided even as early as 3 years down back not to have a gender-neutral rape law. That's not the point, but yeah. So, Indian women frequently found them at the center of this reform agenda. Always we find them at the center of the reform agenda. Even today, the debate in India on uniform civil code is centered around the question of Muslim women. Save the Muslim women or something from Muslim man. And but that's the kind of colonial legacy which comes back. As white men sought to save brown women from brown men, a famous quote by Gayatri Spivak, another post-colonial theorist, by criminalizing crimes of culture that stood in the way of universal freedom and progress. Basically, my point that how the whole thing was also, you cannot understand Indian criminal law formation or the reform agenda without understanding that it has a deeply rooted civilizing formation. It has a deeply rooted view about the native. That native is barbaric, native is someone whom we need to reform, and so on and so forth. Now let's come to some legal, interesting warnings. So this is a man by the name of Hale, which we know, common law people know him very well, and his warning is very famous, used in England earlier, then became a very important part. This is the Hale warning. It is true that rape is the most detestable crime. It is true. And he's saying this something somewhere in 19th century, early 19th century. And therefore ought severely and impartially to be punished, but, and this big but, with a bigger capital B possibly, it is an accusation easy to be made, hard to be proved, harder yet to be defended by the party accused, though never so innocent. Now it's a very interesting warning which will become a part and parcel, and again my keyword on the entire discussion today will be institutionalization. We're not talking about stereotypes in isolation, we're talking about institutionalizing them. This is which is quite interesting in 19th century coming. Never so innocent. It can be manipulated. A very common sense wisdom I think we should talk about that. I mean, when I teach criminal law, I always get this, and you come to a law which relates to women, a rape law, you start, and the first question that I get from my students is, okay, but rape law can be misused, no? And I always ask them that, okay, we are doing murder, we are doing so many criminal offenses, why you thought first time about this to be misused? Because misuse is possible. So the very famous misuse point on which we have to come back, but it has some roots here. Not so innocent, difficult, easy made, hard to be proved, harder yet to be defended, and so on. Hale warning becomes the part and parcel of the English common law. It also becomes the part and parcel of Indian, and when I say Indian, Singapore, Malaysia, I mean Pakistan, I mean Singapore and Malaysia, by the way, have exactly similar penal code. So 375 is a section in India which defines rape, 375 is a section which defines rape in Singapore and Malaysia. So it's like common in the sense of common legacy of colonialism. Okay, so let me move from this Hale warning, I will come back to this. The rule of treating prosecutrix as an accomplice. Now please notice this, something which hanged over Indian rape jurisprudence, and all of this has a central point which is victim. Hale warning, which was, you can see, was saying, please don't be very quick, be very careful of the rape accusation. That led to a form of a rule formation, doctrines of law, institutionalization. Treating prosecutrix, a very legal word for rape victim, as an accomplice, again a very legal word, a partner in crime. An accomplice is a person who is somebody, participes criminis, as they say in Latin, somebody who is a partner in crime, somebody whose help, aid, abets, etc., etc. A criminal, hand in glove. So somebody to be doubted. Now what is surprising is that this became a rule that prosecutrix, that is a rape victim, is an accomplice. Rape victim is a partner in crime. You should think about it, very legal. That rape victim is somebody who's a partner in crime, because what if it is happening consensually, then she is doing something which is an accomplice, but what's the point? We should come back to this absurd, but a logic which was followed for 50 years in Indian Supreme Court. So, I mean, it's not something we can brush aside at all. But the idea that rape victim is somebody who is partner in crime, don't accept her quickly, doubt her. That's what we teach, evidence, we know. Accomplice is someone who is unworthy of credit, lawyers speak. Someone don't believe unless you support his or her testimony with some other evidence. What we use the legal word for corroboration. Corroborate accomplice. Accomplice is a doubtful person, he's a partner in crime. How can you accept partner in crime? This effectively established a judicial situation in which there were two defendants on trial, one charged with rape, another charged with presumption of consent. So the point is that it's quite interesting to think about it, and I mean, I really challenge that papers need to be written on this, how this idea became an idea which was deeply rooted in Indian law in 1980s, that rape victim is an accomplice, because one does not see the logic here at all, though one can imagine. But yes, this was the law. Don't trust the rape victim. So there were two trials going on. Again, we are attacking the person. The victim is here, already seen as an accomplice. Go back to my title. Not ideal. Not somebody who's trustworthy. Not somebody who can be who can be given an ear to without a doubt, like criminal. But why? Where else do we see in criminal law a victim as a criminal? Where else? So why the rape victim? But to go back to Hale warning. The paradox of facing 18th century English rape victim was that a woman who publicly admitted to an extramarital sexual encounter, consensual or not, was by definition an unchaste woman who had lost the very thing that the law sought to protect, her virtue. She was therefore seen as an untrustworthy witness. The violated woman has lost her credibility as a prosecutrix along with her chastity. Don't worry about that. Tough quote, I will send you my slides, so don't bother at all about that. But the point being very simple, that here it is. Hale warning takes its shape. Prosecutrix not to be trusted. And now it's complex, because we are also in a colonial situation. So there is a double problem here. Because natives were also not to be trusted, tells us the colonial law. So a native woman is in a further precarious situation. So a worse accomplice. First of all, you are a rape victim, a prosecutrix, accomplice. Secondly, you are native. So that's the problem of understanding the criminal law, that you cannot understand it without the complexity of it, which goes on. So this becomes the law then. This becomes the law. And please notice this, very interesting. Something which if I would start discussing in this room, do you think rape victim is an accomplice? It will have an interesting discussion. Or maybe, perhaps you might say, no, this is some kind of a stereotype. What are you talking about? How can it be a victim? Because even if both of them are having consensual sex, there's no crime happening. So where is the idea of an accomplice coming in and so on? But something like, and that's my challenge, that's my provocation hopefully. Something which you might say, what the hell it just said, is a part of the law. It's a part of the law, not just in judicial law, but also textual law. So there we are. I hope, yeah, I'm there. Female accuser, non-credible witness. Now, this is a beautiful section which used to be there in the Indian Evidence Act as late as 2003. That's interesting. 2003. Which said, at 155 clause 4 used to say that an general immoral character of a rape victim of the prosecutrix is admissible evidence. That's very interesting actually for those of you who do not have a technical understanding of Indian criminal law, because in India, in lot of common law countries, we realize that general past bad character is not an admissible evidence. In India, there we have a section 54 in Evidence Act. Well, we are deciding on this trial. We don't care about what you did in your childhood, what you did generally as a character. We are not judging you. We are judging evidence blindfold, the law. We are judging you on the facts. So past character is not relevant. But despite section 54, we had this section. Past bad character is not admissible. But for a rape victim, general immoral character is relevant. Why this contradiction existed till 2003 in the Indian Evidence Act is another interesting question. Institutionalization. Embodied marks of resistance are constant argument of that every rape victim, the ideal rape victim, should show the marks of evidence. Even as early as the judgment which came a month back, Mahmoud Farooqi, the argument of one of the lawyers was, there are no evidence of resistance, so the woman is not fighting, and so on. That's what the argument of one of the lawyers, Kapil Sibal, was, and so on. So this whole idea, show us the resistance, show us that you are not. Where is it coming from again? Then we are doubtful that you might be enjoying it or something. So that's the proof that you have to show. Has to be scrutinized to corroborate her claim, and I will take you how amazingly this is institutionalized. It is not just a joke or something. A testimony may be unworthy of credit unless corroborated. Very legal language to say a very simple thing, that don't trust the rape victim unless she is corroborated. Hale warning now, the great Hale warning, taking the form of common sense, which is a very dangerous thing. I always tell that. I should think about that. So it's common sense and so on. Let's move forward. That how Hale warning. Hale warning started declining in the English law in England. However, For example, the sexual history of the victim, physical evidence of resistance remains crucial in trial India. So something which was declining in English England at those points of time remained crucial in India. Why is the question which I just was trying to answer. And this is a quote from Elizabeth Kolsky, who is a legal historian, a new category which has become quite a thing in the last 8 years or so. Elizabeth Kolsky, based in Britain, writes, Indian women faced a twofold challenge, again, as I was telling you, the twofold. In the colonial courtroom, not only were they subjected to British legal presumptions about false charges, they also had to connect with specifically colonial ideas about unreliability of the native witness. So the same point, not just that you are an accomplice, but you are also a native. And she uses this very lovely word, doubly suspects for the rape victim. So you're doubly suspect. One, you are a rape victim, and two, you are a native. So that's a problem. That's something which is very serious to think about. Coming to medicine as a juridical institution, time. And so, okay, yeah, around 20 minutes or so. Medicine as juridical institution. Now, that's why I'm saying that. Science now is going to become an institution. Now, these things are not just hearsay. These things are not just that people are saying. That people are saying and people say all sorts of things. Again, stereotypes. No. These are things that are going to become a part of science. These are things that are going to become a part of medical jurisprudence when it will begin in India. So what worth of science? And science which is always attributed to the value neutral, objective, and absolutely wonderful gift of the Enlightenment is also something which is not so value neutral, is so clear. Just to check out that how the rape law science developed in India. Susan Edwards says the application of medical science alone did not mitigate the impairment. So one would think that now science has come, as we always believe. Now these all nonsensical social ideas will go away. Now science has come. So the contrary medical experts help to maintain belief in lying, imagining, hysterical, and extremely gendered word now. In psychology, they have stopped clinical psychology and they have told that don't use the word hysteric at all. It's a bad now for clinical practicing psychologists and malicious rape complainant. So Edwards is saying that we believe, as we all believe, science would do good, but instead it further institutionalized, my key word today, institutionalized a form of victimhood. Who is an ideal victim? Let me take you quickly to this, and I'll not take too much time on this, but I will quickly take you through, and if you want, you can read that. You can ask me, I can read. To read. This is the first man, Norman Travers, who wrote Manual of Medical Jurisprudence, which is the first Indian publication on medical jurisprudence. So today we follow something by Jaisik Modi. I mean, these are the what we call the babas here, and these are the stalwarts who started the logic, the idea of medical jurisprudence in India. Organized the field of Indian medical jurisprudence and the native character. They included certain ideas. Uncertainty of general evidence in India, ingenious contempt, indolently pernicious sensualists are the natives, so be a bit careful. Strange combination of sensuality, jealousy, etc., superstition, and you know the story. But my point, please remember, now this is becoming a part of an institution. Stereotypes are not a problem, but now stereotypes are becoming science. Stereotypes are becoming law. Stereotypes are becoming institutionalized because of a power. A certain form of power which exerts, and so on. 84, then, guidelines. Now, these are the guidelines to medical examination of rape victims given to doctors. They began by citing the Hale. Now, please understand, I'm so conscious about time. Please think about this. I mean, this is something which innocent doctors are given guidelines. Okay, when you go check out a rape victim, this is what you have to look forward to, and checklist and so on. So, I mean, these are not like bad people going there. The people who are a good person will follow the guidelines. It's a form, it's a format, it's an institutional document, and so on. But that itself has its own politics. That's the question that we should think about, and so on. Began with Hale's warning. There's always a reason to believe that persons are by no means really charged falsely with its commission. No reason to believe that there's no possible false charge. Again, I'll not read this, but I should read this part. Instead of narrowly addressing the scientific ways. Again, this is, our myths are amazing actually, that again, but
instead of behaving like a scientist, narrowly checking out things objectively, like a lawyer looking at evidence, nothing else, blindfold, instead of that, in which a physician could establish whether a particular female has been raped, colonial manuals mediated at great length is an interesting point on the abstract question of whether Indian women of particular caste, class could be raped, and proposed various ways to determine whether they were lying. So the lying women lie, and so on. Now this is institutional, and this is a manual that is given to you. Let me show you some of the guidelines what are there for the checklist, which is amazing. If the medical jurist be now this is a quote from one of the manuals. If the medical jurist be directed to visit the female for the purpose of examination, it is advisable that he should not give notice of precise time. So surprise visit, surprise test, and so on. Don't give notice because again, who knows what, the things can be manipulated. So go immediately, doubt of the victim. Now this is unbelievable, but yes, science. Doctor was to note, and I quote, whether she has a general appearance, general. Law talks about specific fact, general. And remember this word comes exactly in section 154, clause 4, go back and check it. General in moral character. So please see the historicity of the way law comes. It's not like some bad people all of a sudden become bad. General appearance of a person addicted to self-abuse or masturbation. This is something which is to be checked by the doctor of a female victim. Whether the breasts are virginal or show signs of having been manipulated, this is again scientific, doctoral thing. And whether general injuries or marks of violence in the body of the female could have been this is what you have to check. Possibly could have been self-inflicted. Remember the hail warning, easy to be manipulated. Victim, remember, it's a construction, amazing construction. Then comes Gribble's text, juxtaposition of patriarchy and colonialism. Gribble advised that the caste and class position of a child victim's parents were important points to note during the medical examination, as those of a respectable position and caste were unlikely to concord. So who concords? And I'm coming there. I have 10 more minutes or something. I'm coming there. That if we think, okay, old times, now the modern, then okay, that's the shocker. Okay, but okay, old times for now. Okay, caste, respectable people, okay, they don't lie, they don't concoct false charges. But yes, not respectable class and caste, dangerous. Gribble's text reflects both, etc., etc. I'll finish because I want you to talk and have some questions also. Then again, from text to discourse, another theorist who said, no commoner class of false accusations and so on. Again, it's the same point reiterated. I want to come to this case actually, which is quite interesting. But this is something we noticed the connection. This is a textbook which some of my colleagues actually say, oh, this is the best textbook to read, when you are looking for medical evidence and so on. Lawyers love it. Now, this is something which is very much by Jason Modi, an Indian scholar who's working, and this is what he has to say. Most rape cases were either concocted for blackmail or to deny consensual sex. Necessary to prove that resistance offered by women was up to her utmost capacity. So please notice this. This is our training. This is not just some kind of a colonial but very, very insider book and so on, which is reinforcing the same stereotypes. And so, I hope you can get the point that it is not some bad lawyers who are saying this. This is our training. This is it. This is what we are doing, and we are teaching. This is page number 377 of the book, which is saying that. And then I quickly come to Modi's characteristically English question: can a healthy adult female be violated against her will? Answers: under ordinary circumstances, not possible for a single man to hold sexual intercourse with a healthy adult female in full possession of her senses against her will. Now, again, this is Edward Said uses a very beautiful word, second-order Orientalism, in his postscript to his book, where he said, Orientalism is not just about some people in the West writing about the East. Oh no, it's about some institutional formats. You too can write history in the same way. You too can behave in the same way. It's like the same point that it's not, patriarchy is not just about what men say about women. Women can follow the same frame. And as Martha Nussbaum will tell us, they would love to, because that would be the adaptive preference that would give them a good hold in the society and so on. Nevertheless, I have to come to my last 10 minutes now. Rape victim then, with so much history, so much medicine, becomes unworthy of credit. Now these are the kinds of corroborating evidence that are possible: prior sexual history, fresh complaint, evidence of resistance, class and caste status, which were there in the 19th century criminal law for a rape victim, which all sounds a bit weird, but then you can always tell me that this is past and this is gone. But let me just prove that past is not so easy to go. The fundamental lesson of psychoanalysis. Not so easy to erase the past. It haunts you. Okay, so let's come to the haunting soon. So that's Elizabeth policy. Thus, despite the fact that colonial administrators viewed Indian women as passive victims who needed to be saved from Indian men and their oppressive cultural traditions, moving back to the first slides, civilizing mission, ideas about the unreliable rape victim and the search for corroborative forms of evidence were as strong in India as they were at home, if not more so. So it was like equality, by the way, like, you know. So yeah, I mean, we can't behave it. This is the case, an old case of 1904, which I thought it's interesting to see. And coming to my real point of victimology, really, this is the case where a young, again, very interesting words, widow, which is the name of a girl, young and apparently modest girl. Now, modesty is a very, very nice word, because Verma, there was a commission in India called Verma Commission, which was to overhaul the law. And they were saying, why do we use the word modesty? Because modesty is a crazy word. We have case law in India where, and I am not, I mean, this is a case which is 1974 case, where Supreme Court of India is judging whether a 6.5-year-old girl who's sexually assaulted, can she be held liable? Can the accused be held liable? Because the section says outraging the modesty. So the question before the Supreme Court is, can a 6.5-year-old girl have modesty? And there is a dissenting opinion, there is a majority opinion who are discussing, oh, can a girl of 6.5-year-old have a modesty or not? That's amazing, but we have a history of that. Despite Verma Committee saying that, we still have modesty very much today as of now in IPC, in the Indian Penal Code, section 354, 509, full of it. So modesty is an interesting thing, and women only possess that, actually, this burden. Men are not supposed to have this kind of unnecessary cross to be held. So she is a good victim, actually. She's modest, she's young, she was working alone in her father's suite when this man who is from a lower caste, again this is from the judgment. Okay, so this is a respectable woman violated by a lower caste man. He came up behind her, threw on the ground, raped her. Judge commented, truthful demeanor, apparent modesty, look at the things, ideal rape victims. So I mean, ad hominem. We are not talking about the blindfolded law which obeyed without the blindfold. Immoral intimacy between her, the defendant, unlikelihood of her coming forward, etc., etc. Judge called it a serious offense as the complainant character is seriously affected by it. Please notice this. So rape not against a body, against why are you treating human body like a commodity? No, character, reputation. It's about reputation, so reputation less are not worthy of that. And I thought that this really reminds me of a case in India which led to a very famous judgment of Vishakha, eventually. Sexual harassment. What was brilliant in the case of Babri Devi was that the trial court of Rajasthan to this woman Babri Devi, who was, and that's where the first time the idea of sexual harassment at workplace will come, because she was an activist woman working for an organization called Sathin. She was raped, and the trial court judgment said that how can because the accused were of higher caste, Rajputs. The trial court actually said this in the judgment. Oh no, a higher caste man will not even touch a lower caste woman. How can he rape her? That's Babri Devi's trial court judgment, which has to eventually go to Vishakha, Supreme Court 1997 and so on. But it's amazing. So, I mean, please notice the continuity and so on. So that's where I am, and I have 5 more minutes before I go for your questions. Real and unreal rape. Veeru was quintessentially a credible victim. Ideal victim. This is a girl who's modest, who's good, who's upper class and caste. She was a virgin again, screamed, scratched, her body bore witnesses to the crime. Again, which reminds us that this is quite interesting, and maybe in question answer session, these are the kind of ideal victims we need, who scream, who are vulnerable, who are, and so on, which led to actually an outrage in India when it happens in 2012 famous gang rape case. A victim who is in every possible way an ideal victim, in the sense that she's brutally treated. But what about the not so brutal rape? What about the not so brutal victim is the question to be asked. Because he said that it is ironical that this victory can become, and I'll go quick now, then try to finish, and I'll come to what I promised you too, that how it's contemporary. We're not talking just history, just bad or something. History defines us. This is Modi again, his famous book. Women belonging to a laboring class who are accustomed to hard work will be able to offer a good deal of resistance. So ask for resistance. There it's come from. Gendered assumption, so much a part of the law. Again, this all you can have. I can send you there's papers written on this. The real question is what institutions, what power create victim, a construction of discourse. How common sense is a very complicated category, which we just don't think, okay, we are nice people, we don't believe in that. It's something far more complex, and
Really, psychoanalysis isn't requiring that. How could we have constructed as a psyche? What is a psyche? But now coming to the contemporary, as I promised you in my last 5 minutes. Okay. Now this is a case which all Indian students know, because this is a case in 1983, which for the first time said, Supreme Court of India, they quote it time and time again if they do evidence law. This is the most famous case. Why? Because this is the case where for the first time Supreme Court said treating rape victim as an accomplice till 1983 is adding insult to the injury of the rape victim. So great progressive moment for the Indian law, so to say evidence law. Treating rape victim as an accomplice is adding insult to injury. This is absolutely not a law, not allowed, and so on. Now, nice, again, but as history and borrowing Foucault is not so teleologically simple and linear, but it's a complex mix of things. The complex mix is nice because if you don't just read the head note and take pains to read this case, then in between the case comes some very nice ideas. And that's where I wanted you to take you to. That they say, okay, female is not accomplice, but it is conceivable that in Western society. So now another classification coming. Okay, we're talking about Indian society now. Okay, Western society female may level false accusations as regard to sexual molestation again. So a new category coming. Western versus Indian woman. And we have to immediately come to the westernized woman. What is that? And so on. But now it is unbelievable, and I will be very quick, but it is. Let's see that what the court has to say about Western women, not stereotypes but institutionalized stereotypes, which are so crazy that when I teach them, I wonder, and I ask my students that where is the footnote for this madness? And when students write a paper without a footnote, then we say that, well, plagiarism. This is some kind of an insanity, and if you think I'm being too harsh on my Supreme Court, let's have this. This is Supreme Court, it's saying about Western women. The female may be a gold digger, may well have economic motive to extract money by gun of prosecution for public exposure. They go on, and this is all listed in the judgment. Please go and see that. She may be suffering from psychological neurosis. What are you saying? And may seek an escape from the neurotic prison by fantasizing or imagining a situation where she is desired, wanted, or chased by males. No footnotes are ever provided for this psychoanalysis. She may want to wreak vengeance on a male, crazy but possible, for real or imaginary wrongs also. She may have a grudge against a particular male, possible, or males in general, and may have designed to square the account. These are the victims who are not deserving our sympathy. Yeah, that's the word. She may have been induced to do so for consideration of economic rewards, person interested in placing accused in a compromising or embarrassing position, and we can go on, or political vendetta. And I thought that you should see that this is 1983, not old history. She may do so to gain notoriety, I don't know, I just have to read this, or publicity, or to appease her own ego, or to satisfy her feeling of self-importance in the context of her inferiority complex. Again, I think nothing she said, and so on and so forth. They go on, and then comes the point that again, what is very interesting is that this judgment, then, as I told you, every Indian student knows about this judgment. By and large, factors are not relevant to India and Indian conditions, says the Supreme Court. Indian conditions. It is also by and large true in the context of sophisticated, not so sophisticated and unsophisticated society. Please notice the classifications now. Only very rarely can one conceivably come across an exception or two, and that too possibly from amongst the urban elites, guys. This is amazing now. So there we are. Okay, I'm just finishing, and I'll take your question. So this is very, very, very nice, and I will take 2 minutes, Banu, to finish myself. Very nice that now Western is becoming westernized, which is urban elite. Okay, so urban elites can do that. And now this is a judgment which will be cited, again, great judgment because progressive judgment. Again, this is cited in another 1990 case of Supreme Court. And again, you know, lawyers know citation. It is repetition. The more a case is cited, the more it has a value. Like it's great knowledge, wisdom, and so on. So it is a case which is so important. So I wonder, and there I come to my last point. Okay, and so one has to see the trajectory of Mahmoud Faruqi's case, or for example, the case which we were discussing. I was talking about here, the Jindal case, where the judge started talking about that the student is smoking which brand of cigarettes, what brand of smoking up, and so on and so forth. My point is that one has to understand this more complex historicity. Mahmoud Faruqi, again, I will not go into this, that despite the new laws, despite the new definition, they still made a wonderful distinction between an intellectually and academically proficient woman and not so. Because here the rape victim was a student in the Columbia University. And in the entire judgment, they are very much able to see this, that, oh, this is an academically proficient woman who's faking orgasm, as the court is very interested in. But what the court is not interested in is again the power position, that here is a student who's coming, working under a professor. And what is the power position of that? And we are at the home of the person and so on. But no, we need to be loud, not loud enough, not assertive enough, not displaying that. So we are in a circular moment of this. And finally, I just want to say this, and we'll take your questions, that 2 points. So one has to first of all understand the category of victim. Who deserves victimhood? And we are not talking about sentencing, which Mrinal would do in his book. We're talking about guilt determination. The so-called objective evidence is very, very political. And my second point, which is that this is something which we have to deal and understand historically. It's a psychic formation, it's a cultural unconscious of the law. It is not just, the last thing we can do is say, oh, these are bad judges, these are bad judgments, and so on. That's not the case. There is an institutional, cultural unconscious of the law, if that I can use the word of Peter Goodwin, which we have to deal with to understand victimology more seriously. Thank you so much.